Happy Valentine's Day, everyone. Whether you're single this year or you're in a relationship, I hope you'll enjoy this video, because today we're taking a look at the top 10 couples in Transformers. Now, I should say that this is only my personal top 10 of couples, which I've seen or read about. Unfortunately, as much as I'd like to think of myself as a bit of an expert on Transformers, I have not watched or read every single piece of Transformers fiction that exists. So sadly, there will probably be some characters and pairings left off this list that probably should have been on it. That said, let's get on with the countdown of the top 10 couples in Transformers. Number 10. Powerglide and Astoria from G1. Now, it seems pretty weird to start off this list of Transformers couples with an interspecies couple between a Transformer and a human. They're not even really a couple. Powerglide was assigned to protect Astoria in the episode The Girl Who Loved Powerglide. Astoria was pretty much a jinx though, causing all sorts of trouble for the two. And although they might have fought during the episode, by the end of it, they seemed to really like, or dare I say, love each other. Number 9. Megatronus and Solus Prime from Power of the Primes. Why these two? Well, how can I not include the only couple who are both members of the original 13 Primes? In the Machinima cartoon, Megatronus accidentally kills Solus Prime with the Requiem Blaster. Megatronus regrets his actions so much that he is willing to sacrifice every other Transformer in existence just to get Solus back. But ultimately, it was Solus herself who defeated Megatronus, and they both joined the Allspark together. Number 8. Seaspray and Alana from G1. Again, another Transformer and non-Transformer relationship, but this time, it's very much clear that both characters love each other, with Seaspray willing to potentially sacrifice his own life to prove to Alana that he's more than just a machine. And of course, Alana kind of returns the gesture when she transforms herself into a robot. This episode, Sea Change, also marks the first time we ever see a Transformer in any sort of romantic relationship. Number 7. Botanica and Rat Trap from Beast Machines. Okay, now we're starting to get into actual couples. Botanica and Rat Trap's relationship follows the old trope of them always fighting until they eventually admit that they're attracted to each other. Only explored in the latter part of Beast Machines, the two would squabble with each other, help one another, and even kiss until they eventually profess their true feelings towards each other at the end of the series. Number 6. RC and Cliffjumper from Transformers Prime. Although their actual on-screen relationship was short-lived, there's no denying that Cliff was obviously very important to RC, with his death being a big part of her character in Transformers Prime, swearing to avenge his death and hunt down the Khan who killed him. And when she eventually discovered that it was Starscream, she almost fulfilled her oath, and probably would have had it not been for Bumblebee. Number 5. Spike and Carly from G1. Yes, I am also including non-Cybertronian characters who appear in Transformers. Spike and Carly are the classic G1 couple. We'd have other human relationships in Transformers, whether it be Sam and Michaela, Sam and Carly, or, what's one that's not from the movies? Nanosec and Slow-Mo. There we go. Nanosec and Slow-Mo. Point is, we can't leave out Spike and Carly. They may not be Transformers, but they were a big part of the original series and its Japanese sequel, The Headmasters. Number 4. Tigertron and Airazor from Beast Wars. Alright, now we're getting down to business. Tigertron and Airazor were the first Transformers couple that we actually got to see develop their relationship on screen. After the chivalrous Tigertron helped the injured damsel Airazor in the two-parter The Trigger, the pair would often be seen working together in future episodes. That is until the two left on their honeymoon, world tour, where they went off to look for more stasis pods, if you know what I mean. The two would eventually discover a strange plant that was secretly a Vought device, which whisked the two off into space. Their bodies would later be used to create the Vought emissary Tigerhawk, and once the Vought were purged from that form, Airazor and Tigertron Sparks would inhabit the shell to become the new Maximal Tigerhawk. And unfortunately, due to Hasbro changing their mind about the toy, even though they would change it back, but by then it was too late, and Tigerhawk was killed off barely 2 episodes after he debuted, and thus Tigertron and Airazor's existence on screen would come to an end. Although in additional fiction, the two would be brought back in new separate bodies. And in IDW, characters based on the originals would appear, and the two were also a romantic couple. And it is rumored that we are getting a Tigertron in Kingdom to go with the Airazor that has already been revealed. So let's hope that we'll see the two once again in the upcoming War for Cybertron Kingdom cartoon on Netflix. Number 3. Chrome Dome and Rewind from IDW. And it's kind of funny that we're following Tigertron and Airazor with Chrome Dome and Rewind, because technically, Tigertron and Airazor were the first gay couple in Transformers. Because in Japan, they made Airazor a guy. So when they eventually started getting more romantic as the show went on, they just rolled with it. Although eventually, once Airazor's Transmetal toy came out, I think it was revealed in additional fiction that Airazor was actually a girl, but she was just pretending to be a guy, Mulan style, so that the samurai Tigertron would be her sensei. It wouldn't be until many years later that we would eventually get our first real same-sex couple in Transformers, Chrome Dome and Rewind. Now, unfortunately, I haven't read as much of the original IDW comics as I should have. They kinda lost me once they announced their whole Revolution massive crossover event. I just really hate it when they do these kind of giant crossover events in comics, which are clearly just contrived ways to make you buy more comics than you normally would have. But anyways, from what I remember about Rewind and Chrome Dome's relationship in IDW, they were the first Transformers we actually get to see married, and are the origin of the term conjunx indura, which is basically the Transformers term for spouse. And I do recall that Rewind sacrificed himself to get Overlord off the ship, and the Lost Light eventually came across a duplicate of itself where every member of the crew on board were slaughtered by the DJD, conveniently, that is, except for Rewind. Chrome Dome and Rewind would resume their relationship, and that's about all I remember from reading IDW before I noped out because of my revulsion towards Revolution. Sadly, I wish I could include other IDW couples on this list, like RC and Aileron, or Anode and Lug. But unfortunately, I never got that far in the comics. Maybe one day when I had the time. I mean, that kinda was my whole point of doing the Transformers Book Club series back in the day. The hope that eventually I would catch up to the current IDW timeline. But doing comic book reviews, at least at the time, were much too labor-intensive for me to keep up with. Although, who knows, maybe someday I'll go back and pick up where I left off, now that I'm better at video editing. Or maybe I'll figure out a way to do comic book reviews in a format that isn't so demanding. I mean, not to derail this video or anything, but would you guys be interested in hearing me do comic book reviews, even if it's just a static picture of the cover on screen the whole time? Because actually reading and recording the audio isn't a big deal. It's having to pull each page out of the comic, bring it into Photoshop, fill in all the speech balloons and stuff so that I don't infringe copyright, and then selecting and animating all the panels to go with my voiceover. Believe it or not, cartoon episode reviews are actually much easier to do. But anyways, let me know if you'd be interested in me going back and reviewing the old comics in that style. So yeah, that's Chrome Dome and Rewind, at least as much as I know about them. Our first legit gay couple in Transformers. Number 2. Optimus Prime and Elita 1 from G1, Animated, and the War for Cybertron series. This one I had to put near the top of the list just because they're probably the most prevalent couple in all of Transformers. Starting in G1 with the episode The Search for Alpha Trion, where we were first introduced to female Transformers and romantic relationships between Transformers. And most importantly among them was Elita 1, the girlfriend of Optimus Prime. Although, by today's nomenclature, maybe she would be referred to as his conjunct Endura. Elita saved Optimus's life, and he saved hers. But sadly, we never heard from Elita or any of the other female Autobots again after that episode. That is, except for War Dawn, where we learned that Optimus and Alita had previously been the Autobots Orion Pax and Ariel, before they were attacked and gravely injured by Megatron. But thanks to a young Alpha Trion, they were both rebuilt as the warriors we know them today. Decades later, we would eventually get a new Alita 1 and a new Optimus Prime in Transformers Animated. Although their relationship would end tragically as Alita fell into a spider's nest, was mutated by them, and transformed into Black Arachnia. She would return many years later, and though there was clearly still some attraction between her and Optimus, their relationship was ended for good when she was transported to an alien planet with no way of returning. And of course, most recently, we've had the War for Cybertron trilogy of cartoons on Netflix, which, as much as people rag on them, I will say that this show has given us our best look at Optimus Prime and Alita 1's relationship to date. Alita being his military advisor, and Optimus frustratingly ignoring her advice, even though she constantly turns out to be correct. It's just a shame that this show isn't better overall, otherwise there would be more worth talking about here. And before we get to number 1, some honorable mentions. Obsidian and Strika from Beast Machines. We know they're a couple, but that's about it. We never really get any romance between them. Giga and Mega from Master Force. I almost included these two Decepticon Power Masters, because they definitely are a couple, but like Obsidian and Strika, I can't recall any specific moments that I consider romantic. It has been a while since I've watched Master Force though, so correct me if I'm wrong. Knockout and Breakdown from Transformers Prime. I was tempted to include them in this, but I don't think we ever really got any confirmation one way or the other if the two of them were actually a couple in the show. Apparently in the IDW comics the two of them are, but like I said, I haven't gotten to that yet. So I didn't feel comfortable talking about their relationship since I haven't read about it. And just basing it off their Prime cartoon appearance is more of a ship than an actual couple. And I'm saving ships for a future video. But finally, we arrive at number 1, Black Arachnia and Silverbolt from Beast Wars. Honestly, how can you pick a greater on-screen romance in Transformers than these two? Of course, it started off with the White Knight Silverbolt not wanting to harm a lady, which eventually turned into an almost Romeo and Juliet style courtship between the heroic Maximal and the evil Predacon, with both of them showing genuine feelings towards each other, and Black Arachnia eventually coming over to join the Maximal side. Of course, they would have their troubles, but I think the most important point in their relationship was the episode Crossing the Rubicon, where they tried to remove the Predacon shell program from Black Arachnia, but thanks to Tarantulas' sabotage, she dies. And in his grief, Silverbolt almost murders Tarantulas, but his honor is saved by the resurrected Black Arachnia, who was magically revived by the mysterious Transmetal 2 driver, officially making her a Maximal. But, of course, their relationship wouldn't end there. As we saw in Beast Machines, a huge plot point of that series was the discovery that the Viacon General Sparks actually belonged to some of the Maximal's old friends, including Silverbolt, who was trapped in the mind and body of the evil Jetstorm, and Black Arachnia struggled to free him and regain her lost love. Although when she finally did save him, he came back as sort of a angsty emo version of himself. But eventually he would return to his normal corny self by the end of the show. Honestly, I don't think there's been a romantic pair who's gotten more screen time in Transformers than Black Arachnia and Silverbolt. Maybe Spike and Carly, but we never really saw them kiss or date or anything like that. If anything, Carly was more interested in Bumblebee than Spike.
I saw you come in with that cute Autobot. Could you introduce me to him?
You want to meet him?
I hope to see you again, Carly.
You will, and sooner than you think.
Then, of course, we flash forward 20 years later, and they have a kid. So, you know they did it at least once.
Yuck.
But with Black Arachnia and Silverbolt, you get to see the first hints of their attraction, to them confessing their love towards each other, and all their struggles along the way. Honestly, I think the only thing we don't see them do is actually get married and have kids. Which, can you imagine what those kids would look like? Some kind of half-bird, half-spider fusor abominations? Ew, No thanks. I'm kind of glad we didn't see them have kids. Well, there you have it. My picks for the top 10 couples in Transformers. Are they the same as yours? Again, I wish I could have included more couples from the IDW comics in here, but I simply haven't read that far and didn't feel comfortable talking about them if I haven't read their stories. There's also some couples I would have liked to include here, but unfortunately were never confirmed to be romantically involved or not, and me including them would be more on the side of ships than official couples. And like I said, I'm saving that for a future video someday. For now, let me know what you think of this list and who you think are the best couples in Transformers. Remember to like, subscribe, share, and do all that other fun stuff. And I'll see you back here soon for more Transformers news, reviews, and other special videos just like this one.